So this is going to be PR calling training, and this is going to be recorded October 4th, 2020, and really excited to level up our PR program. So the first and foremost, right now, as of October, this is our most updated script that we're using. So if you're using any other script, you want to be using this one. So as you start the PR script, there's a couple of different scenarios in the beginning, depending on what type of person you're calling. Then you're going to ask a couple of questions to confirm, make sure that you would not only, number one, establish control of the conversation, but number two, so that we're not wasting time speaking to someone who is not qualified for the position. So that's the first one thing that's in this script that we want to make sure we get across. And also at the end of the script, we're making sure that we are setting the right expectations for Apex so they know what to expect. And then we're also sending them a follow-up text message at the end of each of the interviews, at the end of the PR script, to ideally have them check out our Bay Area Game Changers Instagram and checking out the video tips on the interview tips on our Instagram. For right now, what we're going to do is I'm going to turn things over to a recording of one of the top, if not the top 2 PR callers in the entire company. So these ladies have recorded several video series to help us with our PR calling, and that's what we're going to be using as a platform for the training. So we're going to start with the 5 basics. Okay, so if you want to take some notes, this is probably where you're going to want to bring some notes out of the 5 basics: the approach itself, rapport building, urgency, firm up, and objections. So that's what we're going to do first. After we go through those 5 basics and watch these videos and take some notes and debrief, then I'm going to play a video of someone doing a live call so you can hear the voice inflections, what it sounds like, the rapport building, what that looks like. Then we're going to go through how to find lists to call and how to use Vector Live to set them up. Then we're going to go through PR using Q for PR calling. And then we're going to go through how to communicate over WhatsApp for your shifts when you do calls. So we're going to do the 5 basics. We're going to listen to a live call. We're going to go through how to get your list of people to call. And then we're going to go through PRQ, calling through Q, and how we track the calls, and then how to use WhatsApp. So that's what we're going to get done during this workshop. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring up our first, the first message, if you will, which is.
All right. So hey,
which is going to be on going over the approach itself. So we're going to be going over the approach and building rapport. So this is going to be going over the approach and building rapport. Here we go.
We're going to get started. One thing that I love about this company, I love the people or culture, but I really love the fact that, we can, if someone works hard, has the right attitude, there's a lot of room for growth and advancement within our organization. And I'm excited to talk to you all today about what you're going to be doing today, which is scheduling PRs and really getting a chance to talk to people that, again, are going to go through our interview process, are going to go through training and then through our programs and really have an opportunity to have access to a vehicle that can really help them, reach whatever goals that they have for themselves and make the life that they want. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. A couple things that I'm going to talk to you about today. I want to start off by chatting about performance and some of the expectations that your team has of your individual performance. We're going to talk briefly about the 5 basics, but I'm actually going to be focusing on 2 today. I'm actually really excited to partner with Melanie Jones, our regional recruiting assistant, and she will be focusing on 2 more next Sunday, and so every single week we'll get a chance to build on from there. So now when it comes to performance, a couple of things that you wanna jot down and make sure that you're aware of going into your shift today, going into the week is, now when it comes to the PR show, right, that's the percentage of people that go through and show up at an interview, right? Now for a social media recruiting assistant, right, our average minimum is a 35%. Now here's the thing, that's a minimum, meaning that I know some of you are going to go out and crush it, are probably going to be, we'll surpass that, but just make sure that you keep that in mind that's not a minimum, right? For assistant managers, we have some assistant managers on the call. It's like 40% for our PSM, DMs, or that's 50% or more. Now, when it comes to calls, for calls each hour for your shift, you'll want to target the 25 to 30 calls. Turning 25 to 30 calls. Now, here's the thing about what's going on now is that people are free, people are available, and they're by their phones. So that means that, hey, you'll probably get a higher response rate. But here's the thing: if not, that just means you get to make more calls. So again, shooting between 25 to 30 per hour. And then within that hour, you should be expecting to set two to three people, again, set for interviews for that hour. And then one other thing that I want to touch base on is there should not be, for every two people that you talk to, you should expect to schedule one. Okay, on average, for every two, expect to schedule one. And then one thing that's important, right, as you're going through is keeping track of your phone calls, right? Whatever procedure your manager has, I'm sure they'll talk to you about that. So make sure you're following that procedure carefully and keeping track of that. And again, any other office procedures that your manager has. Now, when it comes to the 5 basics, you've probably heard about these already. Here are the 5 basics. If you have not, this is your first time hearing these, you definitely want to make sure you write these down. These are the foundation of all your PR calls. So 5 basics, following the approach. Your manager is giving you a script. And building rapport, that's the second thing, or second basic, and that is the one that I'll be focusing on, those two. So I'll be focusing on today just following the approach and building rapport, but just be aware that there are 3 more basics, which is objections, urgency, and scheduling, and then the firm up. And as a region, we'll get a chance to definitely dig into those, but I'm sure your manager has already talked to you about those. If not, they definitely will. Now, when it comes to following the approach, okay, a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. 3 things. One, it's a proven program, right? So it's not something that, we just came up with. Like this is the consistent throughout our region, something that we use. It's the same script that I used when I started in 2016, right? So again, it's a proven program, and it's designed to give our applicants just enough information, okay? So with that, right, we do cover the pay rate and other very just general information. So it gives them, again, just enough information, not too much, too little, because here's the thing, right? They're going to come into a very detailed interview, right? That takes up to 60 minutes. Now it also has little phrases and questions in the approach, again, that really are there to kind of create that, the first impression for the caller when it comes to the position of the company. So it's really designed to avoid creating confusion, right? So if let's say, you do not, if you do not read the approach, right, if you skip maybe a couple of lines here, that's going to lead to them asking questions. And again, because it's going to generate that confusion, because it's not going to give them the information that they need. Another thing is, it really also creates consistency within your results, okay? One thing that I still do, I follow the approach word for word still, and because again, it's a proven program, right? It's the base of what's important to cover. So that's going to help, again, create consistent results, and it's going to really continue to help you build and improve and get better. Now, one other thing that just know when it comes to following the approach, it's okay to use your personality in the approach to make sure that you're definitely enjoying what you're doing, and it's something that's exciting for you. But do not alter the words, okay? You do not want to alter the words. The best place for you to really showcase your personality and really enjoy it is going to be during the rapport process, okay? That is your time to shine. The before and after portions of that, you want to follow it word for word because it is designed to give the applicant just enough information to come into the interview. So let's spend some time talking about the building rapport process, okay? So when it comes to building rapport process, I know a big question is, hey, how many questions do I ask? You want to ask 2 to 3 questions on each call, okay? So asking 2 to 3 questions on every call, and be sure to include things like work in school. And if for some of you are hearing build rapport for the first time, just know that the definition of building rapport is a relationship and a connection characterized by within that conversation. And really, again, what the purpose of that is, it really puts our applicants at ease, and it creates trust within that conversation. So again, asking 2 to 3 questions. So things like, how do they know the representative? That's in your approach, right? Start with that. Hey, how do you know Susan? And then asking, hey, are you currently, if they know him from school, cool, spend some time talking about school. Or if they're currently working, good. So ask about their experience working. What are some of the things that they do? and get to know their experience. Have they done something working with people in the past? Those are things that you want to know from that call and from those questions that you talk to. One cool thing is that you can do is create a connection book, right? Actually write some of these things down so that you can remember that about the person that you're talking to. Because, hey, these are probably people that are definitely going to come into your office and organization, and you're going to get a chance to know. And how cool is it to see them on your team and you already know them, right? Because you're the one that scheduled them for that interview. Second thing is, hey, you want to establish common ground. It's great asking questions, but you want to also disclose a little bit about yourself, right? So, hey, if they mention that they really love playing a sport, right? In my case, right, I love playing tennis, right? If I run into someone that is a tennis player, right, I'm going to connect with them in that way. Asking questions about, how long they played it and stuff like that. So, right, you again have control in what you talk about, right? So, hey, talk about things that you enjoy talking about. Then another thing that's important as you're asking questions is making sure that you're asking open-ended questions, not yes or no questions. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. Another thing that's important is practice active listening, right? Are you actively listening to what they're saying, or are you kind of just tuning out, right? Just being really, really aware of that. And so again, one thing that really helps is, writing some of those things down. It really helps keeping you engaged. And another thing though, like I said, is asking questions that you enjoy, or the things that you enjoy talking about as well. Another thing is just being genuine, because again, they will respond a lot better when you're yourself, right? Now with that, making sure that in that process, you're still keeping it professional, because after all, right, this is a job, a phone call after all. And then when it comes to just, again, the question techniques that really helps avoiding kind of that yes or no is the who, what, when, where, why, how, and which technique, right? So for example, if they say, yeah, they worked at Starbucks, you could ask, hey, which Starbucks did you work at? Or how long did you work there? Or what did you do there? Why did you leave? Those are, again, some examples of what you can dig in there. Now, when it comes to building rapport, one thing that I wanted to share, I want to share briefly and make sure that you're aware that this is available to you, is a building rapport and quality connection sheet. And some of your managers may have already given this to you. So let me pull this up. Okay. So the building rapport and connection sheet has a list of rapport building questions that are really designed to help you build better rapport with people, especially if maybe it's not one of your strengths. This is something that you can really rely on, again, to help you again make those connections with people. Because besides following the approach, I think really the building rapport process is so important. So with that, when it comes to definitely creating kind of those me too moments where they feel comfortable with you and they like you, and because it's important because you're creating that first impression for your office, right? So when it comes to again the sheet, real quick, like I mentioned, your manager may have this, will probably have this, and can definitely get this to you. But when it comes to students, right, one thing that's really helpful is sometimes when people are first kind of brand new at that building rapport area, is they kind of struggle figuring out, all right, what's the next thing that I should ask about if they hit a dead end, right? So again, like I mentioned, right, I want to focus on work, school, and anything that they've done working with people. But one thing that really, really helps is going through and just kind of highlighting your favorite 2 or 3 questions from each section. Right, your go-to questions, because that way in your head you're not fishing around and kind of figuring out what to say when you're approaching with confidence, because you already know what your go-to questions are. You have those in front of you, right? So have that for if you're talking to just a high school student, anybody that is in college, right? If you happen to run into someone that maybe is not a student, they're in that transition, where they're graduating and not going straight into school. There's a section for that. Now, one thing, two things that I'll wrap up with building rapport is creating the Me Too moments, right? So, like I mentioned, right, finding a connection between your and your caller, and then the next thing, so you'll see a section for that there, and then also the name dropping phrase. One thing that's really great is when you're able to actually mention names of people that are within your organization that already work there, to get people when you're on the phone with the caller. So with someone that you're calling. So one thing that I strongly recommend is, hey, if you have someone on who's listed today and they go to X school, right? Hey, make sure you get with your manager. Hey, who are some of the people on our team that go to that school, right? Because that, makes them know, oh, wait, there's already people that are working there. And again, it creates a bigger amount of credibility in that process. And there's some name dropping phrases that you can do, right? So, oh, you go to Roxdale High School. Awesome. So, hey, do you happen to know Larissa? Yeah, she works with us as well. You're probably going to see more than one familiar face when you walk in. And so again, it really builds their confidence and desire to come in. So when you go out and when you start your shifts, right, today, hey, can you make it a goal to really get to know every single person, right? Hey, what are 2 of the 3 things, right, that you're going to connect with that caller, right? Because here's the thing, right? When at the end of the call, right, if you're someone's name, right, if you hear that they came in for an interview, you should be able to kind of have an idea of, hey, remembering back to that call of the thing that you connected with. That means that you're doing it well. If you hear their name later, you have no idea, right? Hey, maybe you didn't really connect really, really well with them. So, right, your goal is, hey, can you go out and really build really great connections with people today? And making sure that you're reading every single word in the script, right? Again, remember, your time to shine is in the building rapport process.
So a couple of things that showed up for me as I was watching that, make sure that you caught the calls and set per hour, along with the standards as to why we want to follow the script. We obviously, during rapport building, we want to ask the 2 to 3 questions, and I just, you'll have access to that document. I just posted it in the WhatsApp chat. So we'll send that out to you as well. And you also want to have the rapport notebook. I really like that idea where it's like, as you're asking those 2 to 3 questions, you're also giving them a chance to, you're giving yourself a chance to write down their answers as they're talking. So you're forcing yourself to listen actively and learn about them. So those 2 to 3 answers that they might give you, it's like, oh, I go to this school, or I'm studying this. And just like Jessica said, it's like, oh, you play tennis, I play tennis. Like giving you a chance to relate to them, because again, people like people that are like themselves. So you want to just find a common interest so that way you can, really do a good job at connecting with them. The other thing that you're going to have access to is also a better to know you sheet. So a better to know you sheet is from the person who recommended them. So on the sheet, you'll see what high school they attended or what are the hobbies or interests. So say if I was calling the friend of this person, it's like, did you go to Crystal River High School too? Oh, no, you just met each other at USF then. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I know your friend's into photography. Are you into that too? Or so you could just really connect with them based upon what their friend does. I know your friend went to Ridgeview High School and goes to University of Tampa. Do you guys know each other from high school or from college? Right? So it shows that I'm connected with that person. So real simple stuff. First 2 parts of the 5 basics, follow the approach because it gets the best results, and build rapport effectively. Cool. So what you're going to do right now before we transition into the next segment, which is going to be urgency and firm up, post your biggest light bulbs from that past segment of why follow the script, and also the rapport building techniques that you just learned, and any other takeaways that you learned from that segment. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transition into the next segment, which is going to be urgency and firming
have
up.
All the goods that you need to be successful on the phone and have a great shift today. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started. Now I'm going to be going over, like I said, the last 2 of the 5 basics. And the second to last one is urgency and scheduling. And obviously we know that just in a general concept, urgency is kind of sooner rather than later, right? And when we think about that in specifics to our position and scheduling people for interviews, I really think about the fact that the more time that goes by between the phone call, right, between when we're scheduling them and their actual interview time, the less likely they are to show up, right? We have to keep in mind that a lot of times we are talking to young adults, right, students. Not always the best at time management. I know as a 17 or 18-year-old, I wasn't necessarily. So if they're not writing something down, right, if it's not kind of at the forefront of their mind, they're not going to be as likely to show up. They might just forget, right? Like I said, it's a lot of young adults. So whether they forget, sometimes if a lot of time goes by, they kind of forget not only about the appointment time, but why they were excited to go, right? If you talk to them like 5 or 6 days ago and you expect them to remember all of the perks that we listed, right, all of the details on the position and how it would help them, or if they're really just in like hardcore job searching mode, right? If we let 4 or 5 days or 3 days even go between the phone call, right, and their interview, maybe they interviewed somewhere else, right? In those 2 or 3 days in between, maybe they already got a position. So really it's in everyone's benefit, not only the actual PR that you're speaking with, but obviously us as well, because it helps our results, right? So it benefits everybody to get them in for the next available interview. I'm going to talk a lot about same day today and urgency, but it's not always same day, right? You might work in an office where if there's not a Sunday interview, really you're just at that point focusing on the next available interview, which would be on Monday. But a lot of you guys do work, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're coming into the office or starting your shift, earlier in the day, and there might be a 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock interview in your office that there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get some of ththese people in the same day. So I do talk a lot about that today. And really the PR shows, again, the benefit for you guys is that results are a lot better. Again, the more, the less time that goes by, the more likely they are to show up, right? So we're going to talk a lot about today, getting them in for the next available interview. And the 2 ways that we kind of create urgency, right? Or we actually get the people to be scheduled for the next available interview. The first one is just kind of getting them excited about it, right? Making sure that they understand the value in coming in right away or the value in the opportunity in general, and getting them enthusiastic about that. I kind of think about, if there's the latest electronic on sale, right? Or a new makeup palette or something. If you don't know anything about it, right? You don't know that it's going to work for you. You don't know all the new cool, exciting features. Are you really going to be that, again, enthusiastic or excited about getting on the website, right at 4 o'clock when it launches to make sure that you get it? Right? No. But if you do know exactly how it would benefit you, exactly what all the cool and exciting things are, you're going to be more likely to make it a priority to get there to get it. Same thing with the interview. And then the second way is kind of reminding them that there's other people that are interested in this opportunity as well, right? Same thing with that kind of sale mentality is if you think that it's going to be sold out in a second, you're going to make sure that you're there on time. If you're I know that I could get this a month, 2 months, 6 months down the road, right? Are you going to be as likely to be there? So by reminding them that we are one of the leading, opportunities for students, and we have a lot of people coming in for interviews, is going to help that as well. And really at the end of the day, like I said, it's in everyone's benefit because we get better shows, right? Which in turn leads to more people on the team, right? Friends are getting to work with their other friends. The teams are bigger. You have more people to call, right? Because obviously the bigger the team, the more people that you guys are helping to get the opportunity, the more recommendations that we would have, the more hours that we would have if that's something that you're interested in. And in general, you're just getting to help impact more people, right? More people are getting this opportunity. So the first thing that I think about when I am talking about urgency with people, right, and getting them in right away, a lot of people are like, well, Mel, I got to the scheduling portion and I was like, hey, can you come in for this interview later tonight? And they said no, right? And they're like, I don't know what happened. I read the phrase in the scheduling section. But the thing with urgency, right, is that you can't just spring it on someone out of the blue in the scheduling portion and ask them to come in a couple hours and think that you're always going to get a yes, right? You're going to get a yes sometimes, right? Because there's obviously people that are just stoked about coming in right away. But you're not going to consistently be able to get people scheduled. And the thing is that you do kind of have to work up to it. You do a building gradual sense of urgency where by the time that they get to the scheduling portion, they're almost ready for it. They're asking you if they can come in sooner, right? When's the first time you have? And so I have a couple phrases here. This isn't the only way, but it's a good example. I'm not necessarily going to stay on each slide long enough for you guys to write this down, guys. So if you have your phone with you, feel free to, take a quick snapshot of these phrases because I'm going to be going over a lot of verbiage for on the phone. And again, if you guys don't have time to write it down, I still want you guys to have access to these phrases. But these are just some examples of ways that you can make sure that you're building urgency gradually, right? So in the beginning, if someone's like, oh yeah, hey, I am looking for work, thanks for calling, right? It's like, oh, of course, yeah, when we had openings, any friend of Roger's would be on the top of the list, so I definitely wanted to give you a call, right? And that's just making them feel good, making them excited, right, about talking to you. In the middle or the end, you can say things like, oh, hey, you're a student at UCF. Yeah, I've definitely talked to a few other students today, right? Really subtle, quick thing, takes 2 seconds, but it's just kind of a gentle reminder, right, that we are talking to other students in the area. There's other people interested in this position. It also reminds them that oh, hey, people like me work on this team already, right? People like my peers, people in my same circle work there. I could work there, right? If they're doing well, I could do well. I talked a lot about that in the report section. And then at the end, right, it's hey, I'm glad that we were able to get you a spot secured. This will get you a chance to get in right away. You know what I mean? Again, just kind of reconfirming what you've done throughout the call now that it's at the end. The next thing that I think about when I talk about urgency, and probably one of the biggest things to be successful, especially for newer callers, is the steps of scheduling and making sure that you're having consistency with this, right? Because we do have a certain procedure for scheduling someone that's going to get us the results that we want, right? And if you're following it every time, you're going to make sure that you have that consistency, right? From call to call control, right? You kind of know that you're in control of the process. You're the one that's controlling the scheduling section. And just again, making sure that we're getting the results that we want. And the point that I want to get across today is that it's really easy to follow the steps of scheduling exactly how they are in the approach when everything goes by the book, right? But I'm going to talk about some scenarios today that happen that I hear a lot of callers, it kind of throws them off of the approach. So I have some solutions for you guys and some phrases. But in the steps of scheduling, right, you want to make sure that you get all of their information before offering a time. And really, this is just to make it easier for you guys and to also make sure that you're not having to go back and forth, right? Nothing's worse than being like, hey, I can get you a time, today at 2:30. How does that sound? And they're like, oh, no, I have a dentist appointment then, right? Like, there's no point in doing that. It's kind of a waste of everyone's time. So making sure that you are getting their schedule, right, before you even offer a time. That way you're making an educated offer, right, from being able to actually work for them. The biggest thing, right, and something that I always really enjoyed when I was a caller, because it got a chance for me to be a little bit dramatic, right, is pausing before offering the interview time. And this is a really, really big concept. And, I know some people like to shuffle their papers a little bit, or they're tap on their keyboards, right? Or even if you're just taking a couple seconds of pause. But what I mean by this is instead of just being like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to get you in. I can get you in today at 3:30, right? Versus, hey, let me see what I can do for you. Let's see. You know what? Great. I can actually get you in today at 3:30. How does that sound? Right? What it does is it kind of lets them know that you are looking to get the best appointment time available for them, right? And it kind of makes sure that we're not just acting as if I can get you in anytime. I have 5 times available, right? Because that's the thing is then they'll be like, oh, well, it was super easy for her to find me the first appointment time, right? If I want to go to the beach with my friends, right? If I want to sleep in just a little bit longer, right? No problem. I can call Mel back and, it was really easy. Like I said, she has, tons of options available for me. So it's no problem for me to cancel, right? So a 3-second pause, a little bit of a gap before you actually offer the time. Make sure that they understand that it is something urgent. It is a priority that they need to make that appointment time because it was picked specifically for them. And same thing if they say no to that, right? This is a big thing, again, about not just following the approach when it's easy, but following the approach even if you do get a no to the first time, right? You wouldn't follow all those steps, pause before, build urgency, right? Offer the time the right way. Then they're like, no, I can't make that. And you're like, okay, well, how about tomorrow at 2 then? Right? So all of the urgency that you build up, right? All of this that you worked hard to create is now just gone, right? Because we just immediately hopped into the next time. So again, if you do have to kind of work through the schedule and find a time that works better, make sure that you're not immediately jumping into that time. You're still taking the time to kind of analyze their schedule, pause for a second, right? Offer in the right way with the right verbiage that you're still reading the words that you're supposed to be, saying as far as getting them scheduled, not just giving up if they say no to that first time. A couple tips is to make sure that you're making it about them, not necessarily just you. Right? A lot of times humans by nature, right, are a little bit selfish. We're going to be more interested in things if we know how it benefits us as opposed to how it benefits other people. So again, instead of just saying things like, oh, we want to fill the positions right away, or, we want you to come in as soon as possible. It's more about hey, I want to help you out so that you can start right away, right? So that you can secure the position as soon as possible. Hey, so you can start making some income for school right away. So again, just kind of focusing on how it's going to benefit them as opposed to just benefiting us. A huge thing, and this kind of goes through the whole approach, as we know, I've talked about this before, but making sure that you are aware of how you're coming across, your tonality, the subtleties of how you're saying things, right? Because obviously if I'm going to ask someone for a favor, right? Or if I'm asking someone on a date and I'm like, hey, do you think that maybe you could possibly... And I know you guys are thinking I would never offer an interview time like that, right? But I do hear it. I hear it a lot with new people, especially if they get a little bit thrown off, right? They get a no at first. They kind of get a little bit more hesitant and they're like, hey, do you think that you could make tomorrow instead? Right? And guys, that's not going to get us the result that we want. That's not going to allow us to be in control of the conversation. So don't say things like maybe, do you think, could you possibly, right? I always advise to only ever ask someone 2 ways, right? How does that sound? And will that work for you, right? Because those are 2 very assertive, confident, friendly ways that are going to better get your point across right? So it's never like, hey, I have an appointment time tomorrow at 2:30. Do you think you could come in then? Right? It's like, hey, I have an appointment time available for you at 2:30 tomorrow, which would allow you to secure your spot right away. How does that sound? And I've talked about this on previous calls, but if this is your first week with us, I do want to mention that the inflection of your voice should not go up at the end, right? If you notice, I wasn't like, how does that sound? Right? Or like, will that work for you? Right? It's very friendly and confident. Hey, how does that sound? Will that work for you? Right? Again, subtleties that make a big difference. Something else that's subtle that makes a big difference, not acting excited or grateful when they accept, right? If they say yes to a same day time, they say yes to any interview time in general, it's not like, oh, okay, great, I'll put you down. You can act excited for them, right? Or like happy that they're able to get the opportunity. But what I hear a lot of times, especially again, girls that are new, that are maybe a little bit like, oh, I really hope that I get my 2 or 3 for the hour. Are they going to say yes? And then the applicant is like, yeah, definitely I can make that time. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Right? And what does that kind of show our caller? That you were almost like surprised that they said yes, right? That you were like, oh, thank you for accepting this job interview time, right? That's going to benefit them. You guys are the ones with the jobs, right? You guys are the ones in control. So again, by just making sure that you're not sounding too excited that they said yes, you should again be expecting them to say yes, right? Because you're awesome. You wouldn't be on the team if you weren't. So expecting the yes. And then a big thing is being helpful and offering suggestions, right, guys? I mentioned in the beginning that these are young adults. They're students. They're not the greatest with time management. I know something that I did even as a young adult was thinking that I had like one class and a load of laundry to do. And my day was jam-packed, right? I'd be talking to my friends and I'd be like, yep, my Thursday is busy, right? Because I was a young college kid. I didn't know, right? Nowadays, if I had one class and a load of laundry to do, it'd be vacation, right? And I know a lot of you guys, again, you wouldn't be on the team if you weren't, go-getters or hard workers. So I'm sure that you guys can understand, but some students still have that mentality. So making sure that you're being helpful with them and offering suggestions, right? We'll talk about this, but like some, common examples that I would think about if they're like, oh, I'm going to the movies with my girlfriend, right? This kind of situation might come out more and more as states are opening. But, if they have something going on that you can easily see could be adjusted, don't be afraid to be helpful and say, hey, we actually have an appointment time today at 4:30. That way you could come in, secure your spot, and then go to the movies with your girlfriend, right? Make a joke about like, hey, if you secure the position, you can buy an extra, candy at the movies with that new, because you have a job now. Right, things like that, but just making sure that you're offering suggestions. Again, guys, if you want to take a picture of these phrases instead of necessarily writing the whole thing down. But if they say that they have something going on, right, they were going to go to dinner plans, they were going to give their friend a ride to the store, right, something like that. Hey, since you were referred by Eric, I know the managers will definitely want to meet with you before other applicants, and it'd be in your best interest to come in as soon as possible since there's been a lot of students calling about the summer positions. Would you be able to, take your friend to the store after your appointment so that you can make it in today at 3:15, right? So again, offering suggestions, not just saying, hey, can you still make it in, but giving them viable ways that they could make it in. And then if no, right, if they say no, hey, I'm the only one that has to, they have to be at a dentist appointment at a certain time, I can't make it in, right? Hey, no problem, let me see what I can work out for you. I definitely do want to get you in. Okay, you know what? Perfect. I can actually get you in tomorrow at 11:15. Which still gets you in soon and gives you the chance to meet the manager right away. How does that sound? Right, so again, still being friendly, still building urgency, right? I still pause before giving them the time. I didn't make them feel bad that they weren't able to make it in today, right? But I still got them in for the soonest available appointment time that they could make, which would be the next one in the morning, right? A couple more phrases. I'm not gonna go through all of these, but just keep in mind that my favorite one, right, is the first one. And I used to use it all the time on the phone, right? But it's like, hey, because you were referred for the position, I'm actually able to fast track the application process and have you meet with the manager today at 12:30. How does that sound? Right? Or there's things that talk about like, hey, you have a lot of experience. I can definitely see why they recommended you. Some things that suggest how they, I talked to other people in that major, again, reminding them that there's other people interested. And then I want to quickly, I have a couple minutes just to cover the last basic, which is the firm up. And this is something that I think a lot of times gets overlooked, right, when we're talking about how we're scheduling them, because we schedule them for their appointment time, they're all set, we're super excited, and we're like, okay, perfect, on to the next one, right? I want to schedule the next person. But the thing is, we want to make sure that we're not rushing with this. It's the very last impression that they'll ever have, right? Like you've spent all this time on the call, right, working really hard. It's like if you're running a race, are you going to like train for months, run an entire race your fastest, your best time, and then the last 30 seconds, just like give up and just like, oh, well, I'll just like meander over the finish line, right? No problem. I think of it the same way on the firm up, right? It's like you wouldn't have this incredible call the whole time and then be like, all right, bye, see you tomorrow, right? Dress nice, see you then, bye, right? It's like solidify the impression that you've worked really hard to build up to. So not rushing, right? Making sure that you're being really genuine when you're giving the tips. A lot of times I hear things that are more kind of just like, yeah, hey, dress nicely, it's an interview, click on the link, all right, see you then, bye, right? And like, guys, again, I say this all the time, but like they're young adults, right? This can sometimes be really nerve-wracking for them. Those tips are what allow them to show up to the interview in the right way and have a better chance at getting the position. So we want to be as helpful as possible. Don't just read these tips because you have to, right? It comes across. Read them because you want to help them. You want to be friendly, making sure that you're ending on a really positive note. Some ways are like, hey, I think you're going to do really well in your interview. You come across as really friendly, right? You're well-spoken. Here's a few tips, hey, mention to the manager that you're recommended by Jack. It'll definitely help you stand out. One of my favorite things was incorporating something from earlier in the call, right? To really make sure that you're showing that you have that connection, you're caring about them, right? If they were like, oh, I'm going to dinner with someone, but I'll come in for the interview before that or after, or they have a quiz or whatever, it was like, hey, really great talking with you, Laura. We're looking so forward to meeting you today at 3:30 after your quiz or after your lunch with Grandpa. Have fun. Good luck on that, right? We'll see you later today, right? Just ending on a really strong note. Again, having the right impression on them, right? Getting them excited for their interview. But like I said, guys, these are some tips that I think will really help you on the phone today, getting people in right away, right? For that very next available interview, building urgency throughout the call, and then ending on a really positive note, right? And solidifying that impression that you built. So I hope you guys have a great shift today. I'm going to go ahead and
So a couple of things that I want to make sure as you post your takeaways into your WhatsApp group, she talked about same day or next day interview time, making sure that it creates the urgency of getting him in right away. So there's less things that could come up. She talked about explaining the value of the opportunity and making it seem limited. She talked about the steps of scheduling, talked about what's in it for them, always what's in it for them, always expecting the yes, offering solutions with confidence and using some of those phrases. And of course, firming up and finishing strong. So go ahead and post your biggest light bulbs to your WhatsApp chat on urgency and firm up. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to listen to a live call. You'll see there's no objections that are given or no questions really asked because as you listen to the caller, she does a great job at doing the first 4 basics. Now, the 5th is going to be handling objections, which we're going to go through in just a moment, but she does a great job in following the 4 basics that you just learned. So I'm going to pull up the script on the screen so you can follow along with her and we'll listen to the audio together. So let's go ahead and pull this up. And let's listen in. All right, here we go.
Hey, Ashley, this is Cassandra. I work with your friend Lauren James. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Did Lauren mention I was going to be calling?
Yeah, she mentioned it to me last night.
Oh, great. So the reason I'm calling is because Lauren just started working with us and she's actually doing really well and we're looking to fill a few more spots in our team. So she actually recommended you as someone who'd be a good fit for one of the positions we have available. So I was just reaching out personally to tell you a bit about it, but just to confirm you are at least 17.
Now, one of the things to keep in mind as you're listening is there's going to be a slight changes in the script, a couple of little small things, but I want you to listen to how it feels, how she sounds, how she's connecting with the caller. Those are the things you're really looking for. And if you hear some things as you go through it, please feel free to write those down.
Sorry, just to confirm you are at least 17?
Yeah, I just turned 19.
Okay, perfect. And do you have access to a laptop or computer for camera?
Yeah, I have
And
one.
we would also
Okay, perfect.
ask
We
this.
do ask that because it is a requirement for a remote position. So the name of the company is Cutco, and we've been in business since 1949. So the openings we have are an entry-level customer sales and service. So working one-on-one with our customers virtually, helping them place their orders, answering their questions, and just helping them in any way possible.
Real slow.
So the starting pay is $15 guaranteed, Ashley, which is not based on sales or commissions, and there's no door-to-door or telemarketing involved. So by the way, how do you know Lauren? Did you guys have a class together?
Yeah, we went to high school together.
Oh, cool. So did you guys like meet in class or did you meet like mutual friends?
Well, we kind of had some mutual friends together, and then we ended up, like, the year after that, we ended up having a class together, so it was really cool.
Oh, that is cool. So you like met and had class. Wow.
Yeah.
So are you graduating like this year as well, or did you graduate before?
So you can listen to
I
how many
graduated this
questions
past
she
year.
asks.
Nice. Well, congrats on that. Do you have any plans for college in the fall?
And also connects.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about it. I just haven't fully decided where I wanted to go yet.
Gotcha. Like, do you have any like top school choices you're looking at?
I'm looking at a couple. I might go to, like, just do, like, a little bit of community for, like, a year or two and then transfer to another one because I want to go, like, I want to eventually go to a 4-year college, but it's just not, like, right now because I'm trying to work on money and all that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I completely understand that. Going through community college is definitely the way to save money. Do you know like what you want to study yet, or have you thought about that?
I was thinking about nursing because I've heard about, like, traveling nursing and stuff like that, and I always loved, like, biology and stuff like that in high school.
Oh, that's awesome. So you want to like be a travel nurse?
Yeah, I love to travel.
Oh yeah, love that. Definitely traveling is so much fun. Do you have like a destination you're like really wanting to go to?
I really want to go to Greece. I keep seeing, like, a bunch of, like, pictures and videos, and I think it's so pretty, and I really want to go.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely have Greece on my bucket list. That's such a pretty place to go. So I'm just curious, what sparked your interest in like wanting to be a travel nurse? Did you just like see it somewhere, or how did you get
Genuinely
involved with that?
interested, genuine connection.
Just because, so, like, I have a few friends that are nurses, and I've thought about it, but I also, like, really want to travel with, like, as well, so I feel like that would be, like, a good opportunity for me to be able to see the world and kind of go through everything.
Oh, for sure. I love that. Well, props to you, girl, because I cannot do blood, but nursing is definitely what we need. Are you working anywhere right now?
So all of that
So
was
I work at a
school.
car dealership right now.
Oh, nice. How
Now
long have you been
work.
there?
I've been here for about 8 months, I think.
Okay, cool. So did you like, I guess, start out as like the receptionist? Is that like what you're still doing, or did you move up yet or anything like that?
So I was a receptionist there for a little bit, and then they really liked my, like, phone skills and whatnot, so they moved me up to internet sales, and that's what I'm doing currently.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. So you have experience working with people. That's definitely something you're comfortable with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, so that's definitely probably why Lauren recommended you. We do work with a ton of students that are strapped for cash for that tuition and looking to get those students out of that manual work. So I just did want to mention, since you are interested in going to school, but you don't know if it's like a 4-year community yet, and you want to do nursing and like travel nursing with biology, we do provide students a resume development, Ashley, and opportunities to gain valuable skills like time management. So being able to manage your time as a nurse is obviously very important. Having the communication skills, like just being able to connect with people like quickly and having that personal and professional level of a relationship is definitely needed when you're a nurse, but that will definitely help you with that career. We also have very flexible schedules and opportunities for students to earn college credit and scholarships based on performance of the company. So what I can do for you now, Ashley, is set up a time for you to speak with the manager to check it out. And he or she can cover all the details and answer any questions you have. Now, Ashley, I can't guarantee you a position over the phone, but I can at least reserve a spot for you in one of our interviews as soon as possible. And Ashley, I just wanted to mention that since you came personally recommended by Lauren, this actually gives you priority over other applicants. It's like what that means is we'd rather meet with you than those who are applying online. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
All right, well, I do want to get you scheduled as soon as possible because the spots are filling up quickly. So while I'm looking at my manager's availability, why don't you go ahead and walk me through your schedule for today and tomorrow?
So today I get off of work around like 4:30, and then tomorrow
So she said today and tomorrow
I work like 11
versus
until
general, just a little small thing.
Okay, so did you have anything else that might get in your way after 4:30 today?
No, not really.
All right, so just checking today, you get off at 4:30 at work, and then tomorrow you work 11 to 6?
Yeah.
All right, well, I know we are pretty booked up, but let me just pull a couple strings for you. I do want to get you in as soon as possible. So let me just put you on a brief hold. I'm going to speak to my manager and see where we can squeeze you in, okay? Just hold on real quick.
So this
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
brief pause right here. She added a couple of value building phrases up here.
All right, Ashley. So it actually looks like we have one more spot for tonight at 6:30. How does that sound?
Okay, that's perfect. That gives me time to get off of work and like change, and then I can come over.
All right, great. So this does get you ahead of like other applicants and gives you the best chance to get started right away if you're accepted. So I just want to confirm some information. The spelling of your first name is Ashley.
Yes.
All right, can you confirm the spelling of your last name for me?
It's Reel.
Perfect. Now, real quick, Ashley, do you have pen and paper or the Notes app on your phone? I'm just going to go ahead and give you some quick tips that you'll want to take note of. That'll be helpful for your interview.
Yeah, I have paper. Let me grab a pen real quick.
Yeah, no problem. Just
And
let
this
me know when you're
part's going to
ready.
be slightly different, but similar.
Okay, I'm ready.
Cool. Are you familiar with Zoom? It's like the online video conferencing platform.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the platform we use for all interviews, and if everything goes well, the initial training too. So you'll need to have the software downloaded to your laptop prior to the interview, and if you already have it downloaded, just check to make sure it's updated. The way you do that is just go to like www.zoom, so zoom.us, and it only takes about 1 or 2 minutes to do. So when you're in Zoom, it says join meeting or start meeting. You're going to click join meeting, and it's going to ask for a Zoom meeting ID. So that meeting ID is going to be 982 423.
So you wouldn't need to worry
2221.
about like any of the Zoom code.
All right, and with that, there's a password. It's super simple. It's just going to be 111 111. So just 6 ones in a row.
So we won't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And if you have any trouble logging on or connecting, Ashley, you can contact our office line at 704.
And then you could just, if you wanted to give your
962
number, it's like, hey, if you have any trouble, you can give me a call. I'd be glad to help you out.
4738.
Okay.
All right, now if a manager does not answer, you can shoot him a quick text because it is a cell phone number. All right, Ashley, well, I have you set for today at 6:30 with Mr. Israel. So Mr. Israel is going to be taking time out of his schedule to personally meet with you. So just to confirm, today at 6:30 is a good time for sure?
And that was right up here.
Yes.
Okay,
Perfect.
okay, great. By the way, Mr. Israel is really nice. That's a good person to be meeting with. Now, one more thing, just remember to join the Zoom meeting about 15 minutes early so we can start on time. Ensure you're in a quiet place and dress professionally. Also have pen and paper for notes. Now, did you need me to repeat anything back to you?
No, I believe not. I have everything written down.
All right, perfect. Well, again, my name is Cassandra. I wish you the best luck on your interview. Just to speak with you, Ashley, for like 10 minutes, you do come across a very friendly and professional person, obviously with the receptionist background and wanting to become a nurse, and that's what we're looking for. So we do look forward to meeting you, Ashley.
Build up the
All right,
applicant
I look forward to meeting you
before,
guys.
before you
Thank
end
you
the
so
call.
much.
Yeah, no problem. And I did just want to let you know we will send you a text with all the information just to double check it, okay?
Okay, sounds great.
All
Thank
right,
you.
no problem. You have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you tonight.
All righty, talk to you then.
All
Have a good
right,
one.
you too. Bye.
They're very confident, very
Bye.
comfortable. It's like they're friends, they're besties by the time the phone call is done. And then you send the text and that's it. Real simple. So very, very simple. However, it does take a little bit of skill. It takes a little bit of practice. So what I want you to do in your WhatsApp group, post any big light bulbs, any big phrases, any things that you liked from listening to Cassandra do that phone script. And then what we're going to do is you're going to want to go ahead and partner up. You're going to want to role play what you just learned. You're going to go through, I would say 3 times each, 3 to 4 times each, going through and using some of the phrases. On your 4th time through, what I want you to do, I want you to record yourself. So after you do it 3 times, then I want you to record yourself on the 4th one. So you just go to your voice memo app on your phone and just record yourself while you're role playing with a partner or just saying it out loud to yourself. This is going to give you an opportunity to hear how you sound compared to Cassandra. And you could always replay this video if you want to, so you could hear and just see the differences. And you could kind of self-diagnose what the differences are. And that way you could position yourself to improve just with your own judgment. The next step we're going to go through is we're going to go through handling objections. So go ahead and pause the video, do the role plays, record yourself, and then we're going to go into handling objections just in case they do have a question. So handling objections, ready to take some notes? Let's do this thing.
So when it comes to handling objections, there is what we call an objection cycle. Okay, and just so you know, what an objection more so is whether it's typically a question, or more so sometimes a comment that more interrupts the flow of the direction what you want the conversation to go in, right? And here's the thing, right? When you're scheduling, when you're in that phone call, right? The end goal. Now, the end goal is not necessarily to have them scheduled. The end goal is to ensure that they show. Okay, that's the end goal, right? But at the end, right, of the conversation, it's so that they schedule. And so again, an objection is really anything that interrupts that process. So you're going through and a few things here. There's what we call an objection cycle, right? So let's say that you're going through your script, and we'll go dig into some examples here in just a second. But there's different types of objections, right, that you may run into, that you may have already ran into, that kind of make you freeze, right? Because you're like, maybe you just don't feel super confident in handling that correctly, et cetera, whatever it is. But one of it, it could be, one is more so typically though it is a question. So the first, portion of that objection cycle is answering the question using the appropriate objection approach to that, right? So I'm gonna, now your managers have probably already given this to you. It is actually a cheat sheet, right? That has literally every possible scenario that could come up. Okay, and again, as we go through, I'm going to flip through some of those specific examples. We'll dig into those. But everything, any possible scenario, it's in that handling questions and objection sheet. So again, your manager's given that to you specifically, right, when you've gone through either after training, et cetera, right, for your shift. You want to, ensure that you have this, right? Again, it's a pretty easy basic. Just ensure that you have it so it's accessible for you to be able to, again, reach it when you do have a question that comes up or an objection that specifically, right, through the process that interrupts your regular flow of the script. Okay. Now, another quick thing that I'll mention when it comes to just using the appropriate one is really again, the basics that I said here is you making sure that you're utilizing the specific approach according to the question that they've asked. But, really the second thing is really the importance of the familiarity that you are with all, that whole sheet. Right? If you look at the sheet, right, there's multiple questions, and one thing that's important is, we take a lot of time to definitely role play the script, but it's just as important to be familiar with those questions, right? Can you confidently articulate those answers? Okay, that's an important question, because if not, then it's really important that you spend a little bit more time so that when they ask you a question, it's like second nature. You know where to go, you know exactly what to say because you're already familiar with it beforehand. Okay, that's important because it really helps build that confidence when it comes to specifically answering that. And what will happen if you don't approach it with confidence, if you're kind of fishing around for an answer, you're losing your credibility because it's when you're showing definitely, again, you're decreasing in that confidence. But as you're fishing around, right, in their mind, as you're kind of, stuttering through, stumbling through answering, they're thinking, do they actually know what they're talking about? Is this actually real? It starts to create doubt in their mind. Okay. And we want to avoid that. The way that you avoid that, make sure that you're familiar with it. Okay. Now, another thing, and then in the second phase of the cycle is, you always want to ensure that you're regaining control, okay? You're regaining control by asking another question, okay? Here's what's going to happen, and we'll dig into the specific example here after this slide, but what will happen, I'll go ahead and tell you, if let's say you answer the question, and then you just kind of leave it hanging there, you just answer it, and it's period, it's not a question, you're not creating some sort of movement in there, you're not really driving the conversation. What's happening is that you're gonna get to that awkward silence, and they're gonna feel like they need to say something else. So guess what they're probably gonna do? Yep, they're gonna ask you another question. They're gonna say, hey, now's not a good time to talk. Can I call you back later to get out of the conversation with you? Or, hey, I'm just not interested. So here's the thing, right? You are calling them. You want to drive the conversation because you are calling them, right? You are the driver. Okay, so you want to ensure that you're taking control right after every single question that you answer. Okay, so so again, remember that's important, and that really leads also to really that three part of that cycle where you go back to the approach right where you left off. Because again, you want to stay on the path that you have outlined in your script as much as possible. Okay, and so the end goal is always, hey, let's go back to the approach. Like, and you get to actually get them scheduled, but overall, really it helps with the end goal to have them show. Okay, and so we'll dig into a specific example here. So one objection that people get here that I want to address specifically is this one right here. I already have a job. They're like, yeah, I kind of already have a job. Okay, so right now, if you think about the jobs, what are some of the jobs that people have right now? Where could they possibly be working? Maybe the food industry, right? That's something that's still functioning. Maybe a grocery store job. Now, they may be a handful here that may still have maybe that internship for the summer, et cetera, at school. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, if they have a job, it's nowhere near the opportunity that we have to offer for them. Nowhere near. So when you hear, I already have a job, okay, cool, but where? So when you hear, right, I already have a job, don't just think, oh, okay, cool, I'm done with this conversation, they already have a job. They're probably not interested. Because here's the thing, 9 times out of 10, I promise you, it is nowhere near the experience that they're going to get with us. All right, so here's the way that you'll want to. Now, I made a few tweaks here to what's normally in and maybe your manager's already done this as well, but really making sure that they understand the work from home. And then I'll read this to you here. So, hey, cool. Hey, where do you work? And again, right, keeping that smile because it keeps the warmth, it keeps the friendliness. What do you do there? Oh, that's awesome. So, hey, do you like it or not really? Again, if they're in one of those industries and probably not super passionate about it, right? Well, hey, that's probably why Sam recommended you. It's really flexible. It's a really flexible work from home position. So you can actually work around your current schedule. And we also have some great short-term student programs available for students too. Then you go back to the approach. The way that you do that is, so are you also currently in school, right? If you're maybe at the building report process, if let's say that this question comes up in the approach where it's before you even get into the job description, right? We say, yeah, so programs available for students too. The name of the company is, you go straight into that section, right? The name of the company is Cutco. We've been around since 1949, and you keep going. Because again, you're driving the conversation, right? If you just say, yeah, we have some programs available for students too, and you just kind of stop there, again, it creates that awkward silence that I mentioned earlier, and they feel like they have to say something, okay? But again, you're the driver, okay? Now, let's say again, it's after you're giving them all the information, they're just like, yeah, I'm just not really looking for a job. Okay, well, and you want to say their name. People love hearing their name. Well, Susan, we actually have several people on our team right now that actually who had more than one job or busy schedule, right? If you know that maybe they're listing all these involvements, maybe busy schedule, when they started with us. So that's not a problem at all. We have very flexible schedules, and we work great around as a part-time virtual. Keyword there, virtual. I mean, they get to work from home. How awesome is that? Okay, so that's important. Virtual position, working around your current schedule. I'm sure Sam figured he may appreciate some extra side cash experience. Now, why don't I have you come in? Why don't I have you, don't say come in. Why don't I have you meet with a manager? This way you can get all the details of the position just to see if it's something you may be interested in. Okay, you don't have anything to lose by coming in to learn more. Now, you want to be very low key, very chill, right? Very low key, chill. One thing that's important, right, as you're going through, again, the friendliness, so they want to continue to talk to you, okay? Now I'm going to go through a few things when it comes to the mentality, when it comes to handling these here in just a second. So now, this is important right here. This is important. Do you believe in the opportunity to the point that you genuinely want them to experience it? Do you believe in it? Okay, and here's why that question is important. Because if you are just going through the motions, you don't really understand the impact of your role, you're not gonna actually handle the approach. And when you hear you already have a job, you're gonna be like, okay, cool, all right, have a great one. Versus if you approach it with the mindset of, man, the opportunity that we have here is next to nothing. The skill sets that they develop here is, there's no way, there's where, right? Then the way that you approach it, and you actually want to handle that objection the right way. You actually want to ask them right here. You actually want to say, hey, you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose by coming in. Because if you don't actually believe in it, you're not really going to go kind of that extra step, right? To really, again, handle it, but also, right, draw them in. Because here's the thing, probably more than half of the people that you talk to, like they're like, well, I already have a job. No, I'm not interested. They're half and half. It could just take 1 or 2 words to get them over on the other side. That's when you actively are recruiting. That's when you're actively creating or really building a pool, a greater pool for your manager, right? For your office than you normally would if you just stopped. Can you imagine if you didn't stop, if you kept going and handling the objection the right way, right? Your set, what would happen to your set number? Instead of 10, maybe that could lead to 15, maybe that could lead to 20. Creating a larger pool of applicants for your office so you can make sure that you're working with the best people, but not only that, right, impacting more people this summer because you decided just to take 1 or 2 seconds to let them know that. Okay, the mindset coming into this is important. Okay, and if maybe this is something that you're maybe not super sure of, hey, go talk to your manager. Ask them, what's the opportunity done to them? Ask your current representative, right? Revisit your mentor training. Okay, remind yourself, okay, of the impact that you have. Okay, now, also this to-no phrase is important, okay? Also, let's say they're just like, again, they're no. Now, that's one way, right? If specifically it's about not having a job, but if they're just like, if they don't necessarily give you a reason, this to-no phrase is great, right? Hey, just so you know, right, coming into an interview doesn't necessarily mean that you would be accepted. It doesn't necessarily mean you'd be accepted, right? And if you were, it wouldn't tie you down to the position either, right? It would just give you a chance to learn a little bit more about your friend, what your friend does. And that, look, check this out. You see that? And get some professional interview experience. That's nice, right? They're not walking into a Walmart, they're not walking into a Food Lion, they're not walking into McDonald's, Chick-fil-A to interview. Like, is this going to be, I mean, this is an opportunity for them to do maybe a first virtual interview. That's nice, right? So if nothing else, they at least experience a virtual interview. Okay, so you don't have anything to lose by coming in for a quick interview. Okay, what does your schedule look like for tomorrow, right? Instead of the next couple of days, say tomorrow. Because again, the goal is next day schedule. Or go back to wherever you were in the approach, okay? But again, if nothing else, they don't even take the job. They now can say that they've experienced a virtual interview, okay? And at some point, right, even if for let's say like the real job, guess what? They're gonna go in a lot more confident because they kind of know the way it works, okay? So that's important. Now, here's another thing that's really important, and I think it's just as important to talk about, just as important as actually handling them correctly, but how to actually prevent them from happening, okay? Here's the thing, if you're running into 2, 3 questions, 5 questions, that is not normal. That is not a normal thing, okay? So here's how you prevent the objections. Here's how you prevent them to say, hey, what's the job again? What's the pay again? What is this again? Who recommended me again? Okay? These 3 things are so important, okay? You wanna make sure you write these down. First one is confidence, okay? When they answer that phone call, how confident are you with that very first line? Okay, how confident are you? How confident do you sound? Okay, and by the way, right underneath confidence, I just actually write, remember to smile. Right underneath confidence, right? Remember to smile. Right, are you smiling with confidence? Hey, Sam. Hey, Sam, this is Jessica. I work with your friend Susan. How are you doing? Okay, the smile warms it up. They feel the welcoming feeling, right? They can feel whether you're like, hey Sam, this is Jessica, I work with, they can feel whether you're confident with what you're saying or not, whether you're wanting to talk to them or not, okay? The first opening line is so important. It's a simple one, but it's important because it generates that first impression. It creates and establishes that credibility like that, okay? The second way is really building that rapport and creating connections with them in the rapport building process, okay? And again, when you're building a rapport, right, to establish a connection, to really get to know them, to show that we care. And here's the thing, I think, if let's say you're getting objections after the building rapport, spend more time spend some time really focusing on this and improving your rapport, right? You're asking 2 or 3 questions. One question that I really like asking, check this out, is this. Hey, what kind of past experience do you have working with people? What kind of past experience do you have working with people? This job is working with people, right? We tell them. Right, working with customers one-on-one virtually. So here's why ending that rapport process with this question, here's what that does. They're talking to you about how they've worked with people in the past, And then their mind is reinforcing the fact that, hey, like, oh, I can do this because I've worked with people in the past. I've done X, Y, and Z, right? They're reinforcing how qualified they are to be able to do well, right? Again, in their mind, people are always going to think that when they hear about a job, they're like, can I do this? Let's always give you their question, right? So if you're asking that question, they're affirming themselves. So that this portion is important. Okay. Again, building that rapport and quality connections, where, you know, they honestly, here's the thing, they may not even really understand how things that you said, but because you connected well with them, because you kind of created that trust, maybe because they're like, oh, this sounds cool, I'm kind of excited for this. You kind of generated that excitement right in the building rapport process that they're like, I'm gonna go check it out. She was nice, he seemed cool, like they were both cool, or, you know, whoever they talked to, they're cool, they were nice, they were welcoming. Those are important. Okay, how they feel after this, the feeling, okay, the feeling that you're generating, okay, and again, the confidence that they have. The confidence that they have that they could be able, they like could do it, right? As far as the role. The third is the most easiest, and just read the approach. Okay, read the approach. Okay, again, the approach is designed to give them just enough information to come in. You've heard this so many times, all right? But again, if you're brand new, that's actually pretty exciting, right? You've got literally everything you need to cover in this approach. So read it, right? Word for word, word for word. Okay, so you're reading it word for word. And again, right, if you know the structure of the approach, you know that, you know, we cover, again, just enough. And again, if you've ran interviews, et cetera, you know that, again, or if you've watched an interview, if you're going to watch an interview, just know that, again, that is where we dig in with the main portions, the main details, right? Again, for you, it's just, hey, this is just enough for them to, you know, learn a little bit more about it and come in for an interview, right? So that's important. And then as kind of wrap up a few things, here's what I'll leave you with as kind of I wrap all this up. Are these three things, is that one, you are in control, okay? You are in control. So when you get a question, one, again, and you've heard this in the past, it's a great thing, right? The fact that they're asking questions, it's a great thing. Now, it may not be a great thing if you're not following the approach, not giving the correct information, but in general, right, it's a great thing. They want to learn more. There's an interest there. You don't go asking questions about something you're not necessarily interested in, right? So again, you are in control. So don't be afraid. You want to make sure that you're driving the conversation. Don't create awkward silences. Also, the second thing is that you have influence. You have influence, right? When you're handling objection correctly, and you're like, when you say things like, yeah, the worst thing that can happen is you gain like experience interviewing virtually, right? What kind of influence are you going to have on people when you talk to them today? Or are you just going to say, yeah, cool, all right. When they say they're going to have a job, awesome. All right, well, hey, good luck. Or are you going to go the extra step, take the extra step, right, and influence them in a really positive way so they want to? So they maybe see a small benefit in for them. And the last thing is just remember that you represent a life-changing opportunity. I'm missing a so again, you really do present a life-changing opportunity, right? Again, every time you go into your shift, right, remind yourself of why you're here, right, of why you're excited for the opportunity for yourself, but also, right, for the people that you're talking to, okay? That is really going to help shape your mindset and not just, again, leave a question there hanging, right, but again, handle it, you know, the right way. So other than that, that's all I have for you all today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Trey so that he can
So that was handling objections. And obviously, if you do the approach the right way, you shouldn't experience any objections. But if you do experience objections, at least you're equipped on how to handle them. So now what we're going to go through is we are going to show you how to access the interview times and also the lists of who to call, along with how to enter your PRs into Vector Live. So let's go ahead and go through that real simple stuff. So over here, when you log into Vector Live, each of you will have an account. You log in, and right on the homepage are the interview times. So you can see there's one for tonight with 36 people set up for it. We have another one tomorrow with 9 people scheduled for it. Another one tomorrow with 10 people scheduled up for it. Then there's going to be Tuesday, which should be little. There's 3 scheduled and 4 scheduled, which is even too many, because we want to ideally have the next interview and the next 2 interviews booked up. So that's where you find the schedule. Where do you find the list to call? Now, there's going to be a drop-down menu of who do you call first. So there's a couple different places. You're going to want to be in touch with your PR manager and whoever's in charge of running the shift. But these are a couple of the access points. Number 1 is flstudentwork.com responses. Anyone that's not bolded or anyone that doesn't have, is not highlighted, then those are fair game. If they are bolded, that means they've been texted. So that means they've been texted or they've been called. But at the same time, If they are not bolded or not, even if they've been bolded, but it's up here, then I would reach out to them with a phone call. You got none to lose. Now, it's a different PR script. It's a different phone approach, but just something to be aware of, that those are easy scoop ups because those are applications from Google Form. Then you also have top 10 lists. So top 10 lists, this is from the training class. Now, usually the staff is going to get first dibs on this week's training class, but you could go back to the previous week's training class and reach out to anyone that's not bolded, or, if they are bolded but not highlighted, then, hey, those are fair game too. Maybe you could reach out to the rep and say, hey, I saw you recommended, Shane as one of your top people. I was going to give him a call. Can you put me in a three-way text, or could you call him real quick and put us on three-way, or could you do a three-way call with us? Just an idea, but those are easy scoop ups for the best list that we have. Then we also have social media responses. So this is usually what the SMRA manager is running, which is Audrey right now. But you could see there's some phone numbers on here that they're not bolded and they're not highlighted. So these are also all fair game too. After that, after you go through and check in with your PR manager, but you have those easy scoop up lists, then we have the long list on personal recruits. And then this is everyone that's in the system. There's 100,000 students that recommended friends of the job. So you would be assigned a list. So let's say you were assigned a list that you were going to call for the day. So a couple of different ways for you to find who your person's list is. So let's say, for example, you were going to be assigned to, let's say, Esteban's list, or let's go Jessica Williams' list. Okay. So I would go over here. I'm going to change personal recruit to referred by, and I'll type in Jessica Williams with no space. It's got to be perfect. I click set filter, and this will pull up her entire list. So it's going to, right now the Vector Live system is just processing, and now it will pull it up that she recommended 20 people. So here's Jessica Williams' list. Now, I personally would not call Jessica Williams' list because she hasn't sold anything yet. So if that was the case, say you were assigned Jessica Williams' list, you would just reach out to your coach and say, hey, are you sure you want me to call Jessica Williams' list because she hasn't sold anything yet? Do you think maybe there's another list you want me to call? And then they'll say, all right, try this list. And then you go to this rep's list and let's see, what this rep has done. We'll go to Stanley, we'll type, referred by, make sure that is click referred by, set filter, and he has 35 and he's over 3K. So yeah, we definitely want to call his list. So how many does he have? He has 35, but only 10 are showing up here. Change this right here to, 50 or 500. And that will show his entire list of how many people everybody that he recommended. So it shows you more than 10 at a time. Now, if there's a name on here that's like weird, you could still call them and say, I can't read, hey, is this M, let's say? It's like, I think it's M. Is that M? Is that right? Or let's say if it says like something weird, like a really weird name, like Boo. It's like, hey, this is Mike. I actually work with Stanley. I can't read his handwriting. What's your name? Oh, hey, Jackie. Cool. Yeah, I work with Stanley at his new job. How are you? Good. He recommended you as someone who might be looking for work. And you just play it off. But you could still call them if you wanted to, especially for a good list of a rep who's at 3K first weekend. Then you don't do anything over here until you're ready to set them up for an interview. Once you're ready to set them up for an interview, you click reached and you go through the process of setting them up for the interview. As far as setting up anyone for an interview from any of these lists, well, there's a couple of different steps to do. Step number one is, let's say you take a number and you first want to do, first thing you want to do is you want to paste that phone number into Vector Live and change this to all and see if that person is already in the system. So this person is in the system, was recommended back in February 26, 2016. So no, that's not us. That's not recent. It's not the same person, whatever. So it doesn't matter. So what you're going to do is, say you enter that, say you're calling that person's list. So whoever this person is, let's say it's Maria. I'm going to take Maria's name. I'm going to type her name in right here. So say I take Maria, and then, however you spell her last name is Talvaro. Talvaro. type it in just like that. Then I click search. And now Maria is not a rep, so she's not going to show up. So it's going to say not in Vector Live. So I click not in Vector Live, and then she's automatically going to be selected here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that person's name, Mariana, and I'm going to take that person, I'm going to put their name here. And if I didn't get a last name, it's like, shoot, I forgot. Just put like a one letter, just like a space filler. But ideally you get the first and last name. I'm going to put in the phone number. I'm going to put in the email address, and then I'm going to click reached. And then I'm going to click reached. When I click reached, it's going to take me through just like a script that's and I'll just do it. So N 7. Let's see if this works. It might not work. Let's see, click reached. It's not a valid phone number. All right, so I guess, let's see if it'll still let me do it. All right, cool. So then let's say it's a female. This right here is critical. The secondary source. You must, let me make sure we're on the same page. You must click secondary source. It is absolutely critical that you do the appropriate secondary source. So what are they? If it was a three-way text, you put three-way text. If it was an assistant manager who put you in the three-way text, which is probably not going to be the case, you put three-way text. If it's a Canvas posting from FL Student Work, so if it's a Canvas posting from here, then it's then that would be how you know, like right here where it says classroom email. If it says classroom email, it's Canvas posting. If it says Instagram, if it's an Instagram, then that would be an Instagram. Instagram, it doesn't matter. As long as it says Instagram, you could pick any of them, but just do Instagram status or Instagram direct message, one of those two. If it's a rep-driven alley-oop, would be like they got on the phone and they put you on speakerphone while you're on Zoom, something like that. We don't do that too often, but it helps. If it's Snapchat takeover, top 10 lists, obviously are the top 10 lists. And if you're just calling just from Vector Live, it's traditional day 3 names. Traditional day 3 names if you're just calling from a list on Vector Live. So then you click the secondary source. Let's say if it was a 3-way text, everyone is over 18, just because here in Florida, that's the case. Then you click no for student. So it saves you time. You don't have to worry about it. And then just type in the office zip code, which is 33618. 33618. Click get interview. Then you click whatever interview they're set up for. And then you would obviously need to type in their email address. Always click yes for SMS text messaging. Always click the yes. It's going to help you with your show percentage. And then you schedule them for the interview and then click the last one. So if I click schedule, it's not going to let me because of the email. But let's say if they don't have an email address, hypothetically, you always get their email address, then you must click confirm and end call for it to process for Vector Live. So that way they get the email verification along with the text message as well. Then you go back and you're calling your next person. So that's how we use Vector Live to enter every PR into the computer system. That's where you find your lists, and that's how you set them up. The last couple things here are, as far as when you're making your PR calls, you always want to use Q. So if you're a rep and you already have Q, then you need a second email address to register Q, and you register it to Tampa PR. And every time you log in to do your PR calls, you log into Tampa PR for doing your PR calls for PR calling. And it keeps track of, you just use the dial pad feature for your PR calls. When you're on WhatsApp, so how do you track your shifts on WhatsApp? We'll be using the Team Builder chat. And every time you're on WhatsApp, you have your goals for the shift. You put those goals into the shift, and then you have your recap of your shift. And you'll have the templates for those two. In fact, your PR manager will probably post those to the WhatsApp group now. So you have your goals for the shift, and then you have your recap of the shift. After you're done with the recap of the shift, it's very, very important for you to post that into your receptionist tracker, your pay tracker, and your stat tracker, because we keep track of all the stats. We need to keep track of all the stats so we know when how many PRs are getting set up and what all of that looks like. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here so you could see what that looks like. So you would then go into your, you will have a spreadsheet. You just go to your tab and you put in how many calls did you get, pickups, qualified pickups. What's the difference? This is how many people answered the phone. This is how many people were in the area, had a laptop, and were of age to answer the phone. How many got set, and how many total hours of PR calling you did. You must update this, because that, when you update here, and you also want to make sure the sum is correct. So sum J2 to J8. So usually it will be there, but you want to make sure that all these numbers are filled. So that way, whatever you update here goes into the overview stats, so we can keep our stats accurate for the entire office. So very simple, but absolutely critical. So after watching this workshop series, you now know the 5 basics. You understand what a good phone approach sounds like. You know how to enter them into Vector Live. You know where to, at least where to find the phone numbers, and your PR manager will typically assign you. But if they didn't, you could take initiative and be proactive and just reach out and say, hey, what list should I call? Or can I call this list? Or is it okay if I go to this resource? I'd rather you be proactive and then ask for forgiveness later than try to wait and just be told what to do. Let's just do our job and get people set up for interviews, because if you're not setting them up for interviews, they're just a name on a spreadsheet, just waiting around, hoping that someone eventually gets to them. So we have so many people that we could reach out to, that we can let them know that we exist. So really critical to keep that in mind. And then obviously do everything, all your calls through Q to keep your accurate data, and update WhatsApp and update the spreadsheet at the end of the shift. So you are officially PR calling trained, and send that recording of you doing the PR script to your PR manager, just so they can listen to it. And we'll continue to build on that as you continue to make phone calls. So enjoy, and we appreciate all your help in helping us build our Game Changer team to take down what will be #1 this year, and obviously #1 and beyond, as we are the largest district team in the entire country. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and have a great shift.